Welcome, everyone, to the Mike Rogers Show. Mike Rogers here with you. And today I have a very special guest, Mr. Tim Thomas in Pittsburgh. And he is an artist, a musician, and he runs a very, very cool magazine. So everybody say hello to Mr. Tim Thomas.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, Tim, give us a little... a little basic introduction, self-introduction of what you do and who you are and what's cool.
Basic introduction. I do the Second Scene magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I started out as a musician about 30 some years ago. And through those years, I finally kind of just ran out of steam. Getting older, things had changed a little bit. So I found myself kind of rudderless. Everything that I kind of knew in my life had sort of dried up. I'd always been pursuing recording, doing shows, booking, putting on shows, designing stuff, recording, etc., all that. And then it sort of was gone. So I found myself with nothing to do. I had been digging around in a box looking for some old photos of something. And I came across some old fanzines that some of my earlier bands were in the late 80s and early 90s. I started out in a punk band called Bastard Squad. So I had found these, like I said, old fanzines, the kind typewritered up.
Yeah.
Cut it in half, done at the local Kinko's or where print shop. And I put them aside to look through to read them to just, see what, my 17-year-old self had said. But then that planted a seed, that I was like, this is a great idea. This is something that seems to be missing. I see a lot of stuff online that the people do blogs, do writings, reviews, sort of online zines. And I don't really find them as interesting because it's hard for me to focus to read online. So one thing to another, I made one of them posts online after a few drinks, and a couple people responded that I've known for years that were interested in maybe doing a little bit of writing. And then an ex-band member who works at Print Tech in Pittsburgh, he says, I think we could do a little better for you than you going to the Kinko's and doing a fold over, old style thing. So that really kicked it in. I really got excited about it, and that's how the magazine had started. But it was years of being in bands and just learning, because I didn't go to school for anything remotely. I didn't go to school or any university, so it was just a learning process. And that learning process was spending years playing in clubs, being in studios, doing interviews. So I feel like I have sort of an inside knowledge of what bands go through.
So wait a minute. So what was the name of your band again?
The first one was called Bastard Squad. It was a punk
Bastard
band.
Squad. Are there any videos on YouTube or anything?
Yes, I believe there is.
Wow.
No live videos, but there are the songs. Yes.
So proper studio shot videos. Yeah. Oh wow.
No. Proper recorded studio music, but just with the picture of the cassette.
Oh, okay.
And then from there, we kind of moved away from punk, more into post-punk. Mm-hmm. And then by the early 90s, started to discover a lot of what would be considered like shoegaze, mm-hmm. dream pop kind of stuff. So this almost basically the same band formed the Celibates, which is kind of an odd name, I guess. And then from there, the same group of people, we moved further on as kind of our interpretation of what we thought a mod band would be in Pittsburgh. So that was called Suburban Sect. And that was probably the most success that we've had of any of the bands, where going back to Bastard Squad, we were the perennial opening act, sort of learning to play, learning the system of how it goes. But from 17 to 26, we had started with this band that we were bringing our own audience and selling CDs and stuff.
So what's the biggest show you've ever played?
Probably would be that I can think of would be opening for the Cynics, which are a legendary Pittsburgh garage rock band. In a later band, we opened for Q and Not You, and then think the Von Bondies, which I remember the Von Bondies.
I know the Von Bondies. Yeah.
We did a show with them in Pittsburgh. No, that's almost 20 years ago. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So do you have a funny story or an interesting story about your band years? Something that you
yeah, but I
tell
learned
people?
not to talk about them anymore. So, no, not really. I don't know. Learning, I don't know if it's a funny story. Learning to control our alcohol intake before shows, I guess. Because usually that led to things getting a little bit out of control, and not necessarily for the worst, but
Yeah.
But,
wow. So that's really cool. So then you one day you just decided to start Second Scene magazine. So why did you do that? I mean, you could have just gotten a job like working at the post office or being a clerk at a convenience store.
Yeah.
Have you always been the kind of guy who motivates themselves?
Yeah.
Does things, if you need a job, instead of going to look for a job, you make a job.
Right.
Is that the kind of person you are?
Yeah, I've always been that way as far as when it comes to, I got to be creating something.
Mm-hmm.
Even years ago, if I didn't have a song that I was working on, something didn't feel right. And I went through, that I did some paintings for a while, that I always felt like I had to be working on something. And with the magazine, it's actually a perfect fit for me, because you're always working on something.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something coming in. Even, the issue 12 of the magazine just came out last week, but I've already started on our issue 13, doing interviews, getting it together and moving forward for the next, publication. So yes, I like to be busy in that way, but I can be very lazy in other ways. But when it comes to creativity, that's my drive.
Wow. So, tell us about issue 12. Who's featured? What's cool about it? There it is. Wow.
We have Tess Parks, who's amazing. She agreed months ago to do the interview. Rodney Bingenheimer, Pamela DeBar's in the magazine. We got Josie Cotton. Also, Frances McDonald, who's played with the Teenage Fan Club.
Wow.
Scotland. So that was done by Cindy Smith.
They were really big in Japan.
Oh yeah. I was still a fan. And then we some other great stuff.
Did you interview Tess Parks?
Yes, I did.
So wait a minute. So who is Tess Parks?
Well, it's hard to explain. She's from originally from Toronto. Moved. She talks about it in the article. She moved to not Los Angeles. Sorry. She moved to London. Was doing some solo gigs and doing different things, and she happened to luck upon meeting Alan McGee from Creation Records. She gave her a handmade tape, and he loved it. Released their first album.
Wow.
And there's you would have to talk to her, because I'm sure there's a lot more to fill into those blanks to where she got to where she was. And then she worked with Anton Newcomb from Brian Jonestown Massacre, which I believe they recorded 2 albums together. So at least one, but I think there's 2.
Yeah, Brian. Brian
No,
Jonestown Massacre worked with a Japanese band, I think, on 2 albums. The Japanese band's name is Taffy. And
okay.
Really big. They had 90,000 followers on Facebook.
Oh wow.
So okay, well, continue with the story. So then what?
So that's I would highly recommend everybody to check her out, listen to her music. So, yeah.
So she records and sells music under the name of Tess Parks.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to list your video, and her video on underneath here. Oh wait, let me take this chance then. Don't forget, everyone, to subscribe and like this video. And down here are the links to all the videos that we're talking about, and a link to the Mike Rogers Show. And we're interviewing today Mr. Tim Thomas from Second Scene magazine. So Second Scene magazine, this is the 12th issue. So
yes.
you've been doing it for 1 year or
No,
what?
3 years. 3 years because it's a quarterly magazine.
Hmm.
So I try to have it out every 3 to 4 months. Between 11 and 12, it took a little longer because I had issue 11 really took off. So it had a lot of afterlife to it. So
Really?
through Europe and through England, then and through Holland.
Can you explain that to me?
So-
What do you mean by afterlife? What was the difference between?
Well, the
issue
distribution,
number
how I
10?
do it, it doesn't all come out the same day. So it's out here in the United States. It's the mailings are going out, so it should be hitting the record stores that I have that it's available at by the end of the week or early next week, which would be the two Amoeba music stores in Northern California, Reckless in Chicago. It's already in the Pittsburgh record stores. It will be Infinite Spin Records in, I believe it's Mississippi, right along the Mississippi River, and a few other smaller ones that are around. And then once I get that settled, then I move on to the distribution in Holland and then eventually England.
Mm-hmm.
So,
You
yeah.
know, in the early '80s, I did an indies magazine, a DIY free magazine like this, and I started out, and we only distributed it in one record store.
Mhm.
And after the first issue, we I don't know, we took maybe 100 there, and the boss of the store said, "Those 100 issues you gave us, they were gone like in 2 days.
Mhm.
So this is really great. I'm glad you're back." So do you get that kind of reaction when you send your
Yes.
magazines to people?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I do.
how much does your magazine cost at the record store?
Everything's free.
What?
Free magazine. It's a free magazine. Now I have it available online to order. That's a pay that at a small fee to cover postage and just general everything. But yeah, it's a free magazine. I sell ad space. I got some sponsors. Yeah, a musician turned into a salesman at some point where I'm where bands can buy different blocks to advertise their upcoming releases, studios, etc. Art.
Man,
that's
that's
what
so
makes it
cool.
go
Wait a
down.
minute. So how many pages is this magazine?
Currently, this new one's 64 pages.
And you're able to put this out at record stores. Wow.
Yeah,
For
so,
free.
Like, I don't know if you can really see, but yeah.
So in someday these early issues are going to be really collector's items. And
They've
worth a lot
already
of
been
money.
selling on eBay for $12 or more. I've seen them on eBay.
Really?
Yeah.
There was a magazine in the '90s called Cool and Strange Music,
Okay.
and it was put out by a guy named Dana Countryman, and he only put out, I don't know, maybe 40 issues or so, and now they're really collector's items, and the whole set, and I have the whole set.
Okay.
And
See, the reason I do it is because I love doing it.
Mm.
I love doing it. It gives me a sense of purpose in life, and I enjoy it. This magazine has led me to meet you, and I'm doing your radio show or your YouTube show. Sorry.
Same thing.
And I love doing the design work. To me, this is kind of another extension of art. So,
Oh yeah. Oh, so you do wait a minute.
I put it all together. Yeah.
You do everything from the start,
Everything.
from a white
Well,
sheet
yes,
of
I
paper.
do. I do have writers that contribute interviews, as you know,
Mhm.
but I put it all together. Yeah.
Wow. And then you also arrange the sales and marketing of the magazine. And that part is basically exploding too.
Yeah, it is taking off. If somebody asked me, what's your goal? What's your dream? Well, I've surpassed that a long time ago. Wouldn't it be cool if moment happened like issue 3 or 4?
Mm-hmm.
Well, definitely by issue 4, because I got to interview the Vaselines, which was a group I loved.
Wow.
So, and then being into different record stores around the world, I had thought, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be great to happen? I never really expected to happen. And then it happened.
Wow.
So, and it keeps expanding. It's turned into its own little monster, its own little machine. it grows with each issue.
So when you send magazines to, like, let's say some UK record store, how many magazines do you send?
10.
10?
10
Wow.
each store, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I can distribute that in Japan for you.
Yeah.
Like at 10, that's not a problem.
See, but the problem is getting them there. See,
That's
I found to get them printed in the UK because to ship them from the USA is astronomical.
Is it?
The price. So I got a printer over England. So right now I currently have to do with 4 stores, which is Rough Trade East.
This is in England. This is in England?
Yeah, in the East End of London. Yeah, and then Jumbo Records in Leeds, Vinyl Exchange in Manchester, and Probe Records in Liverpool.
I better write this down. Okay, Jumbo Records.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other ones?
Rough Trade East.
Oh, that's a big record store, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, I think the bigger ones, the original. So this is one of their, I believe, satellite shops.
Yeah.
Stores. So
Rough Trade, Jumbo, and what else?
Probe.
Where's Probe?
Liverpool.
Oh, that's a very cool place.
And then Vinyl Exchange in Manchester.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So the magazines they're gone in one day.
Yeah. If not a day, within a few days. The one guy, he asked me next time, please put free on it, because people think they keep asking how much, and he's like, no, it's free. He's like, you sure I can just walk out with this? So, which I take as a compliment, because I like to believe that the magazine looks of quality. So,
well, yeah. Also, yeah, it's a very high quality magazine. It's got lots of pages. I think it's much better than, and I hate to say it, Cream magazine. And it's just, nowadays to have like something for free. You walk into a record store and they give you something for free. That's unheard of.
Right.
So, they would have it at the cash register or whatever, and people would be like, yeah, I want this. So here's $5 or $10. So
yeah,
you got to make sure those people aren't charging.
yeah. Well, fair enough. I can't fly over looking, I'm not going to worry about that, So, and also I pride myself on the fact that my magazine's a positive magazine. I don't write anything negative. I don't get into the negative things on stuff. And far as
what is going on?
Interviews, I ask fair questions, but I leave it to the artist or musician to answer, to speak for their music and for themselves, and try to take myself out of that as much as possible, as opposed, when you read sometimes an article, the writer
talks too much.
Yeah, goes into his thoughts and feelings. My thing is, cool picture, good layout. You like what the band says, you're more likely to go, I'm going to check out this band. And I'll leave it up to the reader, hopefully, who will become a listener to some of the groups in the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it is.
So can you give me a rundown of some of your favorite or famous people that you've interviewed?
Well, Robin Guthrie has to be one of the top of the list.
That
was a Zoom.
Twins.
Yeah, Cocteau Twins. And that was a Zoom meeting. And I've listened to the Cocteau Twins going back to the 80s. Anytime there's an interview with Robin Guthrie, I'd read it. So I was, very well aware of Robin Guthrie. And I was very excited about it. And he was very kind. The first question I asked was about his latest release, and he kind of laughed and goes, well, I'm not really here to talk about that. Let's talk about this. And then he just proceeded to talk about some very interesting things. And he was very easy to interview, very kind. We had run out of time, and he was like, well, we could keep talking, but I felt at that point it was best, to end the thing. But yes, it was a couple times I was listening to respond to the questions, and, I kind of got sucked into listening to where I felt like, I was watching a documentary or just watching him being interviewed. And then he'd pause waiting for my response. And then I was kind of like, oh yeah, I got to get back in this. So, that was one of I would definitely say one of the finest moments doing the magazine. I got to interview Kira Rosler from Black Flag, that was a good interview. A lot of the interviews are done via Q&A, where I send email and they respond, which is is easier at times because you don't have to, as go back and have to transcribe everything. One of the other ones that we've traded emails and stuff would be Stephen Laurie from the Telescopes. And having the Telescopes on issue 8, the front cover, was one of the reasons I started the magazine, because I love the Telescopes, going back to 1990. So being able to just email exchange with them and him agreeing to do that and being on the cover, and I've had them in twice. So that's kind of one of the reasons that I started the magazine, is for myself, is I want to explore a lot of the musicians that I grew up on. And now we're probably not that much different in age with a lot of the musicians. It just seemed back then, I guess they would seem older, but they're still putting out incredible music now that maybe is not getting its due, and I'm far from being a mainstream magazine, but I want to cover that. I listen to that music. And I know there are others out there. So I always say I'm not unique or special. There's plenty of other people that want to know what the stuff that, the Telescopes are up to, or, the Vaselines, or another great group is the Asteroid Number 4, which are fantastic.
Well, you may say that you're not unique, but you're making this magazine, and that's very unique.
Right.
In my case, I do a radio show, and I often check out radio programs other DJs do, and I don't really want to sound like I'm dissing other people, but right. I'm very surprised that they're playing like old music. And I think like, why do you do that? Why don't you just always try to play brand new stuff that nobody else has? Don't be playing, the, I don't know, it's just some famous 60s psychedelic band like the Seeds pushing too hard. You should be playing brand new punk bands and what they're playing, but very few people do that. So there's definitely a need for it.
The band I interviewed, the New Candies, I think they're from Italy. They were on the front cover issue 9, and they're a psychedelic band, but they've said it. They have sort of avoided the 60s psychedelic look of it. They're modern psychedelic group. So you're not having the 60s, West Coast San Francisco lettering and that sort of aesthetic. And I think that's really good, that they're taking it somewhere else.
Yeah, that's very cool. So the magazine is called Second Scene. It's available in the United States, Canada, and in the UK,
not Canada, right? United States, England, the UK, and then Holland, the Netherlands. Okay. And I would love to tell you some of the places that it's available, but I'm going to be honest, I can't pronounce the names. So I'm not going to try to. The biggest one would be Concerto in Amsterdam that carries it. So
Concerto in Amsterdam.
Yes. So other than that, some of the different,
Okay, I want to change subject for a minute. I heard a rumor, and I don't know if it's true, that you have a brother. I don't know if he's younger or older than you, and he plays in a band. And you've made a record label. You just started a record label.
Yeah,
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Psychodaisy Records has sort of been around since 1989. And it's mainly just releasing my own stuff and some friends' stuff. But since the magazine has grown, that I've made some proper contacts that I'm able to send music to actually, somebody legitimate to give it a fair listen, and whether they want to play it on a radio show or review it. So I've kind of reactivated the Psychodaisy label. And my younger brother, Todd Thomas, he's working under the name of Pleasing Forms. And he's got a new 5-song EP coming out hopefully next week. He's going through the stress of the mixing phase.
Oh.
So every other week it's like, I think I got it. Next week I don't like these mixes. So yeah, he's getting that finished up. So, and he did a sort of a quiet release of a song or two last year, and that sort of caught on again. One of the songs, Tear It Up, has been picked up a little bit and has been getting played on some Mixcloud shows, internet radio. And then my older brother lives in Los Angeles, and he's in a band called the Darlington Mansions. So both brothers play music.
And then, so are you releasing their records?
My younger brother, as the pleasing forms, yes. That should be not actually in vinyl, because vinyl is impossible to get made at this point. But yes, there will be a release on CD and also on all the digital platforms. And I'm waiting for my brother to get his end together when he gets something together, when they're ready to release. And then me and my younger brother, as the Fictional Flowers, have 2 songs coming out in the next few weeks.
You're still playing in the band.
I'm still doing stuff like that. I'm just not going out on the road or trying to play a lot of shows anymore. But yes, we got a release coming up, which we recorded with Dave Hillis, who was the engineer on Pearl Jam's 10, Alice in Chains, and he worked with the Afghan Wigs and James Blunt. So
wow,
it's great to have. It was great to work with Dave. Not only was he sympathetic to what we were doing, but just a great guy. And we, after 30 years, I 2 days in the studio with him. I learned a lot, and then
wow, that's cool. So
so he's possibly going. We're talking about going to do something solo that we're going to put out on Psychodaisy as well. So that's where we're going, moving ahead.
When you get ready to release those, send them to me, and don't send me discs. Just send me
just
data.
Links, yeah.
Because the stations I work at, it's like playing CDs and stuff. It's just a pain. And and a turntable. What's a turntable? What is that? Nobody uses turntables at radio stations anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay. So, what's your last question? What is your dreams and your visions for the magazine, for the label, for yourself? What do you see yourself doing like in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Well, hopefully I'm still alive because I'm getting older. The magazine, I wanted to get to more record stores. That's my bigger goal, is to expand on that. I'm actually comfortable where I am at with the interviews and who I'm interviewing and the type of, and the level I'm doing. I don't really have the dream or goal to say interview Paul McCartney or Bob Dylan or the Stones. Certainly I wouldn't turn it down because it'd be cool to meet them, but that's not where my magazine's at. I want indie underground, psych, shoegaze, kind of up and coming, even older groups. That I'm really actually where I want to be with the magazine as far as the content. I would just like to get it to more record stores, to more shops around the world.
But isn't it also
that grows?
Isn't it also makes the magazine more valuable?
Yes,
as a collectible.
Yes,
it's only available in select stores.
Yes, it's kind of like a little boutique magazine that people hear about on Facebook and try to find.
Yeah,
but I do that not to be pretentious. It's just financially, it makes it that way. Because I still have people reach out to me or contact me that they found issue 5 somewhere in a bakery, in the middle of nowhere. I said, well, where did you pick it up? And they're like, I think I picked it up in Wyoming at a bakery. And I thought this was a cool magazine. Now, I could be wrong about Wyoming. I'm stretching that a little bit, but because it was in a bakery somewhere out west, and it would have been nowhere near anywhere that I had sent the magazine. So that is right there kind of a reward in itself, because I love little things like that.
Wow.
So that's a goal. And as far as a goal for the label, to help, to sell some songs, you know what I mean? Yeah. Put it that way. I mean, the magazine's free, but like music, I'd like to get some music out there and have people listen to it and play it. So yeah, but I take one day at a time as it comes, because when I say 5 years from now, 3 years ago, I didn't know I would be doing what I'm doing right now. 2 years ago, to think what I'm doing now, I wouldn't have thought I would be doing that, doing what I'm currently doing. So with each issue, everything changes a little bit.
Yeah.
A new opportunity arises, and some lessons learned too, because inevitably there's a typo somewhere, or there's I don't want to say a misquote, but or somebody's name gets left off as a photographer, or there's always somebody getting upset about something. So, there's always that little bit of when when my ego starts to get a little bit out of like, yeah, I got the magazine, I'm just going here. There's always something that levels it out. So I always just keep my head down, try to do the best work I can, and let the magazine speak for itself, and sort of at times separate myself from that, because it's not me necessarily that they want to, it's that they like the magazine. Right. So you got to kind of keep that, because next thing I'll be dropping my last name. I'll be just Tim, share some weird thing like that.
That's really cool. Well, anyway, that's about all the time we have for today, Tim. I really appreciate it. And
no, thank you.
This will be made into one issue on YouTube, and I need to edit it and make
edit out that part where I say my name, Tim, and share. I kind of was like, why not say that? Because that would be that's something my brother will pull up, listen to, go, why the hell did you say that? That's what I'm saying. To get to the end, I tried to stretch it and be funny a little bit. So,
well, I laugh.
Well, that's good. Yeah. So hopefully my Pittsburgh accent is in check, because I got to worry about that. Not worry about it, but
I can't even tell you have an accent.
Because we say with different words like yins and down there and that.
Okay.
All right.
So
no, it's been such a pleasure, Mike, to do your show. I was looking forward to this all week. So I was looking forward to it since you sent me a message about doing it. I was, I'm really was excited.
Well, I really think Second Scene is cool. I love the DIY thing. I love that you're doing it for free. So it's my duty to help promote as much as possible. And if I can interview really famous but cool people, then that's what I want to do. So
I mean, I love having that you're contributing, just while the interviews have brought are great, but it's also to say to people, hey, I got a writer in Japan, and all of a sudden people are like, wow, so that all brings it to another level on itself.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, folks, today's guest was Mr. Tim Thomas from Second Scene magazine. He's also doing a record label. What's the name of the record label again?
Psychodaisy Records.
Psychodaisy Records. And I'll have links down below. Also, subscribe and like this video if you can. And the Mike Rogers Show, listen to the Mike Rogers Show. The link's down below, and please check it out. And anyways, thank you to Mr. Tim Thomas.
And thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Take care. Thank you.